The show focused on delivering beneficial information on everything to do with products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
And welcome back to the program. I'm Stirling Fox. Tony Gioventu is with us. He is the Executive Director of the Condominium Homeowners Association of British Columbia, as well as being the condo columnist for the Vancouver Province, the Victoria Times columnist, 24 Hours Magazine. He gets everywhere with his word every week. And Tony has brought along a lovely guest. She is Veronica Franco from Clark Wilson, the Vancouver law firm. And I'm glad you're here, Veronica, because no doubt you've encountered cases like this. It's the email portion of the program, friends. And this one is from Jenna in Surrey. And Jenna wants to know who pays the insurance deductible of $10,000 as a result of a flood in her unit that caused damage to 4 other suites, Veronica. Who's on the hook for the 10 Gs?
Well, at first instance, it's the Strata Corporation. So the Strata Corporation actually ends up paying the insurance deductible. Then you have to look at the bylaws to see if there is a bylaw that allows the chargeback of that insurance deductible to a particular owner or not. And then you also have to look at the legislation to see what it says. So if there is a bylaw, then you have to look at under what circumstances you are allowed to charge that insurance deductible to the unit owner.
Okay. Perhaps if she was careless or negligent,
exactly,
she would be a lot more liable than if it was a burst pipe.
Depending on what the bylaw says. So some bylaws specifically say you have a negligence threshold. So then the Strata Corporation would have to show that this person, this owner, was negligent in some way. But there are some bylaws that say that no matter what, if the water escapes from something that's within your unit that is yours, like a washing machine or a dishwasher, for example, then if that kind of a bylaw is in lawyer speak, is a strict liability bylaw, that makes the unit owner responsible regardless of whether they did anything wrong or not.
Okay.
And similarly, if there is no bylaw, then you look at the legislation, and the legislation says that the Strata Corporation can sue an owner for the damage for which they're responsible.
So in Jenna's case, Tony, she should go and have a look at the bylaws in her strata and see whether or not there is a bylaw on their books that would make her automatically liable, that situation that Veronica just indicated. Or perhaps sit down with a lawyer and say, okay, there's $10,000 here that I may end up having to pay. Help!
Well, I think in Jenna's case, what she wants to do is she wants to phone her insurer for her condo. That's the first thing she wants to do.
All right.
And for every condo owner, you need homeowner insurance. Whether you are a tenant, an owner, resident owner, or a landlord, you need to get the appropriate insurance that covers your share of the liability in the event that there's a deductible. And it's not just deductibles that rotate around losses like damages for water. Could be smoke damage. You could have had a kitchen fire or something like that.
Right.
We could have an earthquake, and it may not be that much damage, but there could be damage to windows and plumbing systems that cause a lot of damage. Each unit is still responsible for the share of the deductibles eventually because the Strata won't have the money to pay for them. So ultimately, as Veronica says, the Strata pays the deductible, but now they're going to send her a bill. Jen is going to get a bill for $10,000, which she's hopefully going to be able to truck off to her insurance company, and hopefully her insurance is sufficient enough to cover that $10,000 deductible.
Or even if it doesn't cover the whole 10, maybe it reduces the deductible from $10,000 to $1,000 or $500, Veronica, and that's certainly a lot easier for a person to manage.
That's absolutely correct. And their insurance, I mean, she will have to pay the deductible on her homeowner
Of course,
insurance.
So maybe
that's
500
small.
there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's part of it. But the other side of this that we forget to look at is that this is the other side of collections for Strata Corporations. These are the kind of things that are claims or allegations. There's not a statutory obligation to pay for this. That's why the Act says that the Strata Corporation may sue an owner or seek a court action to recover a deductible if an owner is responsible for the claim. And so what happens now is we're now dealing with different kinds of claims, like bylaw penalties or fines. If I've been fined for having a dog when I shouldn't have a dog, or damages caused by my barbecue to the building, or an insurance deductible, or user fees, or administration fees, or costs of enforcement, or bylaws. All these kind of things are all allegations that I've done something wrong. And so I have the right to dispute them. So these don't just automatically now become part of a lien. And that's one of the things people make assumptions for. And I think, well, Veronica should talk a little bit about the Form F situation with respects to the sale of a strata lot. What a Form F does as a certificate to be able to transfer title. It's necessary through land titles.
Okay.
But one of the problems is strata corporations kind of park money into the account that's owed by an owner, and they don't collect it proactively. And the worst two, of course, are damages and insurance deductibles. They have very short limitation periods on them as to when you can actually get into court to collect them. So, I don't know, what's your advice, Veronica, on how soon should you actually deal with those?
And even before that, what the heck is a Form F?
I'll start with the Form F. The Form F is a certificate of payment. It's essentially a certificate that the Strata Corporation certifies that either there's no money owing on that unit,
okay,
or that if there is, some sort of arrangements have been made,
okay.
and it kind of specifies the circumstances. And that form is required every time there is a conveyance. So if Tony has a unit and he sells it to me, the Land Title Office requires that this Form F be obtained from the Strata Corporation before the title is transferred. So the idea with the Form F is that if there is money owing to the Strata Corporation, they can withhold providing that Form F before the sale of the property, which would force Tony, who owes a bunch of money to the Strata Corporation, to pay up.
Right, okay.
The key, though, is that I think strata corporations have started to use Form Fs to collect all sorts of money that are owing to the strata corporation, but the legislation limits the kinds of money that you can try to collect under the Form F.
Oh, okay. So they have, what they're looking, is the reverse of that then, strata corporations looking for more clout?
Exactly.
To more effectively get in there and show a little muscle and collect some loot?
That's exactly right. This is their way of, the inexpensive way of collecting money. And as a result of that, as Tony mentioned, is that strata corporations end up leaving on their books a whole host of monies that are owing to the strata corporation, but they don't bother collecting it because they figure down the road when this person sells their unit, we'll get it through the Form F.
Oh, right. Okay.
So you've got two problems. You've got now the Form F is trying to collect money that maybe they're not entitled to collect. For example, damages arising, damage claims. So if there's damages to, so the common property, the owner causes damages, you're trying to collect that money.
Out of the proceeds of the sale of the unit,
exactly.
Right? Okay.
That can't be included under the Form F. But fines can. So you can include the fines under the Form F, but you can't include damages that have not been already determined by the court. So if you have a judgment from a court that says this damage, for example, to the common property is money that's owing to the strata corporation, you can collect it. But if it hasn't been adjudicated by a court and there's no order that gives the strata corporation, that verifies this claim, so to speak, then they can include it under the Form F.
Oh, okay.
And then the second problem is that, as Tony was mentioning, is that what you end up happening is that there are monies that are owing for a very long time. So you could have claims on the Strata's books that go back 10 years. But depending on the kind of claim you're asking for, there are limitation periods. There are times if they're old enough, the Strata Corporation can't collect them.
Mm-hmm.
So
the old statute of limitations
exactly
thing. Right, okay.
So for some things, it's only 2 years. And for some monies that are owing, and these claims are on the books for longer than 2 years. So in practically speaking, the Strata Corporation isn't really allowed to collect those monies, but they've sat there on the idea that the Form F will save them.
Wow. Interesting stuff. That's hanging a lot on one little piece of paper that may or may not actually benefit you at the point of sale.
That's right.
Interesting stuff. We're almost out of time. Tony, last word to you, and I leave it to you to elaborate a little. The more we do this, the more I learn of the need for one's homework to be done with great efficiency before spending a dime.
Well, and you mentioned absolutely the important word was volunteers. These people are volunteers, and Strata Corporations need to make sure that they have some money available to hire professionals to help them. Make sure you have individuals who can represent you from a legal perspective with respect to filing liens, to be collecting money, to helping you with dealing with interpretation of bylaws, accounting services, technical services in your building, engineering, depreciation reports, ongoing maintenance. It comes down to money, and nobody wants to spend more money than they have to. But if you don't spend it up front proactively to make sure that you're managing the building and managing your money and your funds, what's going to eventually happen is you're going to be reactively spending substantially more money to fix problems that should never have arisen in the first place.
And if you're getting into the condo lifestyle, just understand that it's going to cost.
It's going to cost you.
Veronica, Franco, thank you so much for coming in to join us on the Talk About Strata program. Hopefully we can convince you to return at some future date.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Tony Gioventu, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next month.
I'm Stirling Fox. Thanks for being with us.